Have you ever wondered what life is like after the storm?
Well, thank God for life. Thank God for life. That's all I can say.
We move on, but this is their reality. There's a long road ahead, and in tough situations, you either step up or step out. We realize the best way we can step up is to come back. And we're going to keep coming back to share the real story on how you can be part of building the BVI back stronger, smarter, greener, and better than before. – 2017 was one of the most devastating hurricane seasons in history. In a 2-week period, the Caribbean islands were ravaged by 2 of the strongest hurricanes the Atlantic has ever seen. "18 countries were impacted, and 6 were left in crisis, with over 80% of the buildings destroyed.
Yeah, I've been to quite a few disasters, and I'd say I haven't seen anything that had been hit quite so hard in terms of an entire country being affected.
After witnessing the damage from the 2017 hurricanes and realizing that this could happen again, we saw the need to document the attitudes, principles, and best practices for recovery so that others can emulate them in the future.
If that storm had hit this country in the middle of the night, there wouldn't have been living to bury the dead. The word that came into my spirit was pruning. I see the fact that God didn't destroy us as a people, because He could have done that. The storm could have wiped us out. That's how ferocious the storm was. I don't wish the storm on my worst enemy because it was that bad. But we are still standing. So the pruning is that we've lost our stuff. All our stuff has been removed. But He left us, and He's given us an opportunity now to build afresh, build anew, and build a country that we will be proud of, that visitors will be proud of, but that He will be proud of.
We will build our country, my country, back.
You know, the storm came right over us, so that all of a sudden, after 4 or 5 hours of strong winds blowing, totally calm. And all of a sudden, the sun came out. I came out of my house, and as I got out, I heard someone screaming. Really screaming loud. "Somebody help! Somebody help!" I ran down the hill from my house, and lo and behold, it wasn't just one person, it was one of 25.
I've heard of tornadoes, but I literally saw the tornado, swirling, and it just tore my whole house up.
Day 14 was my 14th day in job with my family. We were huddled in our closet, as most people were during that time. The key thing that actually I think has hit me and has humbled me is the strength of the people here, their resilience, their spirit, their warmth. And you can see the natural beauty. The natural beauty will grow back. It is growing back. The seas are still the most beautiful in the world. But the natural spirit of the people here is something that you can't beat. And that's something that for me gives me huge confidence in the BVI growing back.
We were right in the middle of the eye of the hurricane then, and we looked out, utter devastation, and then the other side of the eye hit, and we threw ourselves back in. And when we came out, it was like a nuclear bomb had hit.
People who lost everything still had to stand up, be brave, and lead their country out of devastation and into opportunity.
Brittany, what are we doing today? Our goal is to really capture the story and show that there's progress happening. The last thing the world heard about the BVI was that it was totally devastated, and we want to show people that it's not totally devastated. There is a plan for recovery. They do need help. They do need people to come down here, but they also need people to keep investing and keep vacationing.
We then interviewed the Deputy Premier, the man in charge of natural resources and labor for BVI.
We've lost our house, but we haven't lost our home. You know, and that's the inspiration that we get from our neighbors, from our friends, from the people you've seen, you know, since you've been around here, how the people are interacting on the street. And I think that is what will get us through.
We wanted to hear his perspective on what could possibly be an opportunity in the midst of so much loss to the environment and with 80% of the office buildings destroyed.
Opportunities are almost limitless. I think there's a grand opportunity for the BVI to build a green economy. I think there's an opportunity for us to show the world how it can be done, how it should be done, how it needs to be done.
The two major pillars of the BVI economy are tourism and financial services. We met with the executive director to hear just how financial services survived.
Financial services, as I said before, continues uninterrupted because we can operate from other jurisdictions.
Lorna explained the contingency plan that allowed for operations to be able to continue off-island. This was a key element for securing this important pillar of the economy. In the first few months after a disaster, normal everyday tasks are more challenging because of the lack of resources, debris, and overall chaos. Between interviews, we experienced a few extra adventures of our own.
No. We're stuck on this mountain.
Got it.
We wanted to hear from the governor of the British Virgin Islands. We found him knee-deep in mud, rebuilding a school and helping to pull his country back together with his bare hands.
So we have an immediate recovery plan, which is about getting schools open, which is what we're doing today, getting things working, getting people shelter, making sure that electricity comes back on and water. We've then got a short-term plan, which is about getting tourists back, getting the economy back going, getting people back into jobs. And then we've got a long-term plan, which is about rebuilding it even better than it was before. So getting it more resilient, getting it stronger, getting it buildings and infrastructure that stand up to storms in the future. In the long term, thinking about how actually the community builds back in a way that's more resilient with different kind of business models, different kind of infrastructure, so that in an area where we do get storms, we don't get knocked over when we get them.
Richard Branson is a major advocate of the BVI and was very involved in the emergency relief for Virgin Gorda. Over the years, he has personally implemented the use of solar and other green initiatives on his nearby island, where he endured Hurricane Irma.
This was the master suite. It's the nicest room. Here.
Let's make the Caribbean as a whole the first sort of climate friendly zone in the world. Let's move really quickly to use this lovely sun to power the Caribbean from the sun and from the wind, which we get a little bit of sometimes. I mean, interestingly, our solar panels here on this island were one of the few things that survived. And so we had electricity very quickly. And if you build solar panels correctly, there's no reason why you should lose them in strong winds. Now's a good time to really try to move towards a greener BVI.
The devastation was absolutely horrifying. It's unbelievable how many people survived these storms. But to see those who experienced such loss create these incredible plans so quickly was beyond inspirational. We were excited to interview the Premier over all of BVI. He personally experienced much loss during the hurricane, but with courage was seeking opportunities for his country to be even better than before.
As I said before, we're in a hurricane belt, so we expect hurricanes. We've normally just reacted to them and cleaned up and carried on with life. This was a hurricane like no other, and so it's really been overwhelming, so to speak. So even though we have been quite severely hit, there's still a lot of work that we can do. But even though we are doing what we can do, the result of the hurricane is so overwhelming that there's no question that we need international assistance. But the estimate of the damage to the BVI from this hurricane is in the region of $3.6 billion.
Meetings literally every single hour of this day. It's our last day, and we've honestly met with game changers, and it's so cool. It just makes you want to stay forever.
Next minister interviewed had one of the most incredible stories we had heard yet. After rescuing several people during the eye of the hurricane, he then continued to step up and made sure that his grocery stores were open during the initial emergency period.
As we were filming, a local government minister approached.
We have lots of food arriving tonight for my supermarket and for this supermarket, and lots of food arriving every day for this week. I think one of the greatest lessons is to teach us to be humble, for us to know that we don't have it all. In a moment, you can lose it all, and you have to start from the bottom again. And the lesson learned is that even if you start from the bottom again, there is hope that you can rebuild. And like I said to everyone, don't think of it as a long journey. Just think of it as one day at a time, rebuilding. The recovery doesn't always depend on money, or it's just the will of the people to put together and start rebuilding. We are people who never give up and who believe that in every adversity there is strength. We can gain something out of what happened. It was terrible, but guess what? It has brought us closer together and make us stronger than ever.
The thing that we have that we didn't have before is knowledge in terms of how to build back stronger, quickly. And that we now have.
But why do you choose to continue to live and invest in BVI? Why are you?
The BVI is the most beautiful place on earth. I mean, I've travelled the world, and you know what we've got to now do is make it even more beautiful. And you know, when our house burnt down in another hurricane, we set about to make sure that the island, that we came out with things that were even better than before. And now with this hurricane, the whole BVI has got to sort of make sure that the BVI comes back more resilient and better than before.
So we have to build better and we have to build stronger.
The challenge here is huge. I won't underestimate it. We are making huge progress, but equally, as you see when you go around these islands, there's still a lot of areas we've got to rebuild. There's still a lot of people in need. So actually keeping it on the world attention, focusing people to say, what's the plan? How are you supporting that plan? How are you funding? The best thing that people can do in the long term is to come back here and enjoy the fantastic places. They can come back, they can have the best holiday they'll ever have, with the best people, the best seas and the best environment.
And so, with the help of the rest of the world, with our own resolve, we will be able to build back and be and continue to be BVI strong.
The response from the people of the BVI has been nothing short of heroic. They are using what would destroy most to create a better future for themselves and their children. Their efforts are creating positive transformation, but they will need continued help from the rest of the world to make BVI stronger, smarter, greener, and better than before. Up next on BVI Stronger, Napoleon Hill said, "Every obstacle carries with it a seed of equal or greater opportunity." Walking the streets of the British Virgin Islands, even weeks after the hurricanes, you could see in people's faces many were still in shock. Yet many others were recognizing that seed of opportunity. And with that recognition, they ran full steam ahead.
We reopened on that Saturday, December 9th, with approximately 120 boats on the water.
And for those running, the path was not clear, but they did not let that stop them. It was those who were not afraid of being wrong and did not wait to be told what to do that helped accelerate the recovery of the BVI.
I would not choose to be anywhere else in the world, despite despite this behind me.
There's a lot of people who are straight on the plane, but I would rather be involved in the rebuilding of a nation. I love it here.